Hi and welcome to another Type with me. In today's video I want to talk about type narrowing versus typecasting with some examples. Are you ready? Alright, let's go. So TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript, right? It adds extra possibilities for typings on top of your JavaScript objects. And one of the things that is very powerful within TypeScript is type narrowing. It's a concept that's important when you are learning TypeScript, but it's also important to know what differences are between type narrowing and typecasting. Right? So when we do type narrowing, well, it's based on the condition that we are doing, right? We have here a string or array, and then of course we do the dot length, but here you see that the dot length is of the string dot length, and if we have it right here, we have the array string dot length, right? So if we have here hello, and we have here hello, world, well, for the one here it prints 5 because we have 5 characters here, and here we have 2 because we have 2 strings in that array, right? And I want to do something like this. I want to do print length, of course, but then maybe I'm gonna do it a little bit different. I'm gonna add here an extra condition. And this should be number, for example. Again, doesn't matter, but he will fall into this one, right? And you see here array t because it could be a string or it could be a number. And if we now do print length then of 1, 2, 3, you'll see here that he will print out prints 3, right? So if we now execute dyno run index.ts, of course I need to put here source, then you get 5, 2, and 3, right? Great. Right, so now typecasting. Well, here we have hello, which is of type any, right? And then we will want to say that y is x as string, right? So x is still any, and we cast it to a string. And then of course we can do something with x, right? We could do index of or whatever, because then it's a string, right? But x is still any, right? We cannot do the same thing with x that we would do when it would be a string, right? So typecasting is really converting one thing into another, right? And with casting we can broaden it up or we can narrow it down, right? So these are the two things that we could do with that, right? So if we look a little bit further now, we could do something like this, right? And again, you will see here that for example, this one is type narrowing, right? We have x, and then we say, okay, if x is of type string, well, then x is narrowed to string. So with a type guard, we can narrow it down and say that x really is a string, right? One thing that you also need to know when we are type narrowing, it's always type safe, because then we know that we can do things with that type because we are doing a check, and with that check we know that it's a string, right? Again, when we are casting it to a string, we are not sure that it's a string, right? it could be, for example, and that's something that could be interesting. I'm just gonna do something like this. For example, Z and then Y from unsafe and then Z. One of the things that I think we could do is do something like this, right? Now, you say that Z is a string, but it's not really a string. You see what I mean? It's not really type safe. You are not sure that it's a string, but you are just saying with typecasting that it should be, or that it is a string in your code. So again, not type safe. So if I would run this code, yeah, it's not doing something suspicious, but if we then now do something like this, console.log, right, and we do z dot y dot, and then something like includes h, for example, because we think, or we are going to assume that there is hello in there, but it's not. What would happen, right? Well, it would crash. And that's a pity because we are casting into a string, so it should work, right? But again, this can cause runtime errors. And runtime errors are things we don't want to have within our code, right? So there are different ways in TypeScript to narrow down our typings. One of them is the typeof, right? So we could do typeof value equals string or equals number, and then that's one thing that we could do, right? Use the operator typeof. If we execute this, we get the string is hello, right? And then here we could do something like this: print value 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we could execute this one, and the number is 2, 3, 4. Another thing that we could use with type narrowing is the instance of, if we have classes like this, right? We have a class animal, and it can, yeah, an animal can produce sound. We could have a cat could meow, for example, but yeah, an animal could not do that. Well, we can narrow it down, and when we get an animal, and that animal can be a cat as well, we can do if animal instance of cat, we do animal.meow, else we do animal.sound, right? When we do that, we can get something like animal equals new animal, and then cat equals new cat, and then we have call animal and call cat. And then if we do this, we have the animal sound and the cat meows, right? Which is a great thing, that we get that and that it's been printed out like that, right? Alright, so one of the other things that I did is I created a class cat and a class dog. And then I create a type pet. And then I say I want to have here pet. And then we can look into pet, because we can then say, hey, the property meow or the function meow exists within pet. Well, if it exists, we can use it, right? So that's another thing to narrow down and use things that you want to use within a function. Alright, so we have an interface fish and then we have an interface bird. And they have both two methods. One is swim and one is fly. And then we have a function is fish, which is a type guard function. It's a user-defined function, and with is fish we have the possibilities to provide a interface fish or a bird. And then we say animal is fish when we cast that animal to a fish has the property swim, and swim is not undefined, right? So we he finds really swim methods on animal, right? Of course, you could do something like, swim in animal. So what we could do here, and that's again a good reminder of what we saw already, is we could do also something like this, right? We could say swim in, and then an animal, which could do the trick as well, right? And of course we know, okay, it has swim, and here it has fly, because here it's just a fish, and here we know that it's a bird, right? Because the one thing is fish and the other one is a bird. So again, it's better to use type narrowing than type casting, because you don't know if it's really that type or class that you're casting to. I know that it's really tempting to do so, but it's more type safe when you are type narrowing than you are type casting, right? So that's something that you need to take into account if you are really sure that is the type. You can do typecasting, but take into account that you can get runtime errors over time. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from it and from this video, and that you can use this into your day-to-day job and day-to-day life. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time.